Welcome to the Industry Angel Podcast. We hear from the best business minds across the globe, entrepreneurs, social influencers, marketing mavens, and sales rock stars. We've got them all. Here comes your weekly dose of inspiration with your host, Ian Farah.
Good morning. We are live. Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Let me know if you can hear me. I've just been having a discussion about my voice. It sounds terrible through these microphones, I think. And this handsome fellow here has got such a beautiful voice that actually I might get him to host the rest of these, because this is 205 episodes in. Where's that gone to? I hope you're doing well. Look at me, my crazy socks. These Nirvana socks, look.
Oh, very cool.
Nice, isn't it? I hope you're doing well, keeping safe, crazy times. I know, obviously, I had a bit of a side swipe with the lockdown again, but I hope you're looking after each other, checking in. Go with your gut. If you haven't heard from someone for a while, let them know you're there. Drop them a quick text. It means a lot. Right then. So let me just check who's here. So Adam on the right-hand side. This is Adam Brown, by the way.
Morning.
I think I've got an applause button here that you probably can't hear. It's a round of applause. Obviously, if it was in real life, there'd be a huge round of applause.
Yeah.
Because we're here in 1 Trinity Green in South Shields. And as you know, we used to do this live when we were allowed to, downstairs. And there would be probably about 150 people trying to get in through the doors to see you. So that applause would have been much louder. We're socially distanced, of course. So it's really good we can do this live, because obviously we've done a lot of stuff remotely. And it's just so much better that we can do it live. Right, let me know if you're here. Let me know if you can hear us fine. Are we live? Yes, we are. Good stuff. Producer Misha, if you're watching from your bed, let me know what the sound is like through this microphone, because I'm not overly happy with these microphones. I'm gonna have to play with them a bit longer. Let me know what you've been up to. Let me know how your business is going. It's tough for a lot of people. I think we've touched upon the excluded 3 million or so across this. I'm trying not to get on my soapbox here, because there's a lot of businesses that haven't been supported during this this crazy time. So I hope you're doing okay from that point of view, and trying to hunker down. Thanks, Mark. Good to see you here with us as always, and thanks for your support. David Francis, thanks for all your help, David, in South Tyneside. Well done. Look at Misha, sounds much better than usual. Thanks, mate. Do you know what you're trying to say? And of all the times Misha says, "Can I work from home?" It's a Friday when we're live like this, and I don't have her to support me.
Oh, terrible.
But thanks for my cup, Misha. Look, she bought us this for Christmas. Who else we got? Amar, thanks for joining us. Thanks, bud. Katie, thanks again for joining us. Always with us. Much appreciated. Let me know how you've been doing as well. Drop some comments in the box there. Just let me know how things have been going for you, because I'm always interested. We are going to talk. How would we talk as employee benefits? What would be the
health and well-being.
Health and well-being. It's really interesting to talk about health and well-being, because didn't you? How long are you doing this? Like 15 years?
15 years.
15 years. So you're all over this stuff, right? And we laughed because Adam said, "I've got some notes," and he's looked at my notes. He's like, "Have you not got any?" Like, don't eat that kind of stuff. And what I said was that you know this stuff inside out. It's been your life for 15 years, so you don't need notes. You know this stuff. If you remember, we talked about this when we first met, and you said like health and well-being. People thought you were a kind of health and well-being kind of coach and stuff like that.
Yeah, they thought I was going to go in and present to their staff about how they should be eating healthy food and doing 10,000 steps every day, which isn't what we're about, really. We help employers keep their staff healthy by engaging with insurance products. So whether it's things like private healthcare policies, or especially at the moment, people are working from home, they might really be struggling, and they might not want to tell their line manager or the director how they're really feeling when they're working from home. So there's things like EAPs, which are employees assistance programs, where people can use and speak to people in confidence about what they've got going on in their life and get some help if they need help at the minute.
Right, you've gone right in there.
Yeah.
All in EAPs and all sorts. Let's drag it back a little bit, because the reason we're doing this is because when I first met Adam, we had a coffee. And he kind of told me what he did. And I love that. I love meeting people. And I think I put a post out on LinkedIn saying, "Do you know your neighbors?" And in terms of like reaching out and just having a coffee, if they're in the same business center like this, just like Michael Cook there, look, him and Opal are watching from upstairs, hopefully. Morning, Matt. And look, Mark's commented this, and he struggled a little bit during this lockdown. We're going to come on to that, Mark, so thanks for raising that. Adam and I had a coffee, and I was amazed. I was truly amazed, and I've met his colleagues as well, that some of the stuff you can put in place doesn't cost a fortune.
No.
And I really wanted to bring this to the podcast because it's something really close to my heart: mental health, culture. I've said this numerous times on the show. I've burnt out. I've really took too much on in the past, hospitalized. And I never had, which I think what you alluded to there, I never had anybody I could kind of talk to.
Yeah.
And the reason being is I was on the board. I was a director. You should be strong. You should be able to handle this stuff. And I didn't maybe want to show weakness, if I'm being honest there. So who do you talk to? And I think if you are feeling quite burnt out, or maybe there is an issue at home, it can affect your work life. If you haven't got a confidant at work, or if you have to be this, portray yourself as this strong leader, who do you talk to,
Yeah.
So I think we started talking about these employee assistance programs, and I've actually used one, and they're really good. I wanted to have a chat about, I was going through a separation and moving house and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, who do I talk to about this? And GPs, for instance, you've got a long wait for GPs.
Yeah.
And actually, when you want to reach out and talk to somebody, it's there. Like then, isn't it?
Instant. Yeah.
It's
you need
not
it
like 3 weeks' time.
Yeah. You need it today rather than in the future, because by then it might, horrible to say, but you might be in a worse state than you are at that moment in time. So,
well, you're right. And yes, it is horrible to err on that side, but it is a thing. And especially during this pandemic, we have heard so many terrible stories. Lots of people struggling right now. So this is the reason why you're here, because when you started talking to me, you were talking about these employee assistance programs, and some of the stuff that comes with them is like helplines where you can reach out and just pick up the phone, get straight through to a specialist and say, look, I need some specialist advice on this.
Yeah.
And then you told me the price of these things, and I couldn't believe it. And I know we can't talk pricing because it's not black or white. There is a lot of factors in there, but it's a hell of a lot cheaper than I thought.
Yeah, I think when you mention things like insurances for business and things like that, as soon as you say insurance, I think not everybody, but a lot of people think it's going to be too expensive for us, and then when you actually start looking at what they need and put some prices together, a lot of people are shocked, like you were.
I was, yeah.
At how cheap things can be. And when I say cheap, I don't mean that it's a bad service, because sometimes cheap can mean that it's not a very good quality product.
Yeah.
But these things certainly are, and they're becoming more and more popular, if you like, in the business sector. I'm getting more and more queries about what things can we put in place for our staff, because we are concerned about how they're feeling. So
it's really interesting to say that about popularity. I was talking to a chap yesterday. Is he here? Tell me if you are, PT. I won't divulge. And he was talking about his team, and I think what he was really interested in is the employee benefits side, in terms of being an employer that stands out from other employers.
Yeah.
And that shows caring. David's just put a comment on there saying that you can't panic the troops. Internally, you might want to keep stuff to yourself and that sort of stuff, and you can't show your vulnerabilities, he's saying there. And I think as a leader, being able to bring people in and show them that you care for them by putting these benefits in place is a differentiator from another potential employer that really just says, look, this is how much you're going to earn, and that's it. Whereas now this is how much you're going to earn, but we're going to do this for you, that for you, that for you. And it's a differentiator, isn't it?
It is. It's the whole package. People aren't just looking at what they're going to get in their monthly salary package, Employers are thinking, right, well, what can we offer as a benefit to, enhance staff retention? And it does work. I think if you've got a particular industry where it's a niche market, you might be up against somebody else where you're looking at taking on staff. And these things can really help in employing new staff and retaining staff that you've got in place.
Mark just put a comment on there, and he says, surely for businesses it's more cost effective to have a employee assistance scheme in than to have people unproductive and worry through absences.
Yeah.
So that's a really good point. What's your thought? Have you got any? I'm going to put you on the spot here. Have you got any stats? Is anything where you've kind of in terms of staff retention? is there any numbers where if you have these things in place, there's less staff churn and that sort of stuff? I would imagine there would be.
Yeah, I can get my hands on information like that. But there's different surveys that have been done in the past that it shows that if you can get help quicker, then you are going to get staff back to work and help with their problems a lot quicker as well, which will get them back into a happy place.
That's really interesting. I put a post on LinkedIn this week. I don't know if you saw it. I talked about painkillers and vitamins. And I said, I'm going to have a massive plug on my business here. What I said about my business was we've got a lot of painkillers. So you might come to us and say, look, we need some help on social media or something, because I can see it here. And I said, yes, we can sort that out for you. But actually what I like is our vitamins, if you like, our retainers, where we'll do monthly work for you to stop you feeling any pain. Mm-hmm. So rather than your employees feel like, they've gone too far down a certain route where, they might be struggling with that kind of stuff, you're putting these things in place to actually prevent it, isn't it?
To prevent that from happening and having staff off long-term sickness. It will help. And, you've got the EAPs as well. There's obviously different levels of treatment that you can have. So you can have just a conversation with somebody. That one conversation might be enough, or you might need more telephone conversations that also include things like you might need to actually sit with somebody. Maybe it's not face-to-face at the minute, but via a Zoom meeting with a professional counsellor. So you can get that kind of level of treatment as well of these things.
I'm just looking at David's comments there, and what he's saying there is about leading by example. So showing that you take your own well-being seriously. That's something, when I started this business, that was massive for me, because I didn't take my well-being seriously. My peers, my directors didn't take my well-being seriously. I was off running around the world and just letting them crack on. And when I'm kind of going, I'm tired out here, I'm potentially going to burn out. Yeah, you're fine, man. You're a young lad. When I started this company, I did not want that to happen. And I think there's a lot of leaders now and a lot of companies with that culture in mind. So it is becoming really in vogue. And I think we don't know where to start though.
Yeah.
So like for me, when I first met you, I was like, I love this culture. I love this mindset. I don't want my staff to burn out. I don't want to burn out. I want to put this in place, but I don't know how to do it. And then you went, well, actually, these things. So what are the things that people are coming to you for now?
The three main things at the minute that people come to us for, and the majority of our client base, are company. These are company paid policies. So the company can pay for their directors, the staff. If they want all of the staff on, they can. If they just want to have certain members of staff on, you can usually do that as well. The main things are things like private healthcare, group protection policies that include things like death in service and critical illness cover for staff. And then, like we've touched on, the EAPs as well. What I would like to say is that businesses might already have those things, but they might not actually know what they've got.
It's a really good point.
With the policies. They might get the renewal in each year, like you probably do with your car insurance, and it'll go into a drawer and stay there until you have somebody bang into your car in a car park.
Yeah. But, and you've probably paid for that service again, not realizing that you've already got it.
Yeah. If you've got a private healthcare policy or a death in service policy, you might already have an EAP included within that policy. Especially, in the last year, it's been horrendous for lots of different reasons due to COVID. So people might already have those policies in place and not realize actually there's an EAP sitting, an employees assistance program sitting behind all of that, and they might not even know it. They might not know the extra benefit that they've got, or they're already paying for, that staff might not be using, that they have actually got access to.
I'm mindful we've dove into like EAP. Can you just give us a whistle stop on what that means for people watching?
An EAP is Employees Assistance Program. So that covers a telephone helpline that people can ring if they're having any issues at all. It doesn't have to be work related. It can be gambling. It can be drugs, abuse, or anything like that. It can be family life. At the minute, we're having to homeschool our two young children. That is very stressful for us, and trying to, run a business as well. Me and my wife work together. It's a juggling act for everybody, and we're managing, but I know that there is people out there who aren't coping and they might not know where to turn. So these programs are a voice basically for them to speak to, and they can help them hopefully come to terms with what they're going through at the moment.
Benjamin there, my friend Ben, he is the culture guy. Ben's all over culture. And as you can see, if I don't have to worry about being ill, it improves the speed of recovery and it increases the chance of staying healthy. So again, we've talked about that preventative thing, haven't we?
Yeah.
So if you're a leader, a business owner, you might want to kind of reach out to someone like yourself and say, look, I'm interested in putting that in place. What if you're an employee and you're interested? Have you ever saw this where someone sort of approached their management team and said, look, I've heard about these things. Could we bring that in force?
I think we've came across that where a member of staff could possibly be tempted away to a competitor and being approached from a competitor and says, look, these are offering me this package.
Okay.
Maybe it's to retain us or to retain me. Would it be something that the business might consider setting up? And we have came across that before.
Yeah. No, it's really interesting. I've lost my total train of thought because Glenn said that I need a FAP, a fashion assistance program. Thanks, mate. So we've talked about EAPs there. What's the next thing then? You talk about, should we touch on death and service? And it's a bit
really
of a tough one. Really bring everybody down.
Yeah, we can do.
Before you do that, when I met Adam, I was like, I need to get all this in place. And I don't know, it's one of them ones where I'm sure you've met loads of people where they go, I need to do this. And I'll get onto it next week or next month or next year. And I need to get my finger out and get this sorted. What happens when you meet people like that? What do you say? I know you don't want to go for the hard sell, and this isn't a sales thing at all.
Yeah, I mean, there's various stories that we can use. One of the main things is that this is particularly for kind of not necessarily at director level, but maybe the rest of your staff. You'll be surprised at how many of the kind of under probably 50s or 40s maybe don't have any kind of life cover in place at all. So this product, group life cover, is aware of an employer being able to say, right, well, we appreciate what you do for us. As an extra benefit, we're going to give you some life cover as part of your whole package. And it usually works on a salary percentage. So it could be 2 times an annual salary, 3 times, 4 times, it goes up and up and up. The good thing about group life cover paid by the business is if you were to take life cover out just on a personal basis, you would have to fill in a lot of health questionnaires and things like that. With group life,
even a young chap like myself,
even a young fit lad like yourself,
I'll take that.
There's none of that with group life policies. With them as well, you've got the added benefit. Most of them have these helplines attached to them as well, so you're kind of getting two bites of the cherry, if you like. Really, you're getting 2 policies, and rolled into that, you've got the helplines as well if they need to.
So what you're saying there is then, rather than me do it personally and answer all these questions, I would imagine around like how much you consume alcohol and
you smoke, you're drinking, all the good stuff.
Yeah, oh no, of course, yeah. But as a group, so if you had a group, say you had 10 people, what's the price? I'm going to put you on the spot here. Is there a price benefit? Like, is it cheaper to me to do it personally, or would it be? It would. As a group?
Yeah, as a group, it would work out.
Would it?
It would probably work out cheaper doing it through.
I didn't want to put you this way. It's not always black and white, but yeah.
So, it obviously depends what industry you're in and all that kind. Like,
is there economies of scale though? So, like, if 10 people take it, then
the more that you have on the policy, it would work out. The unit rate would be cheaper. But like I say, price wise, it depends on your age, what industry you're in, and going back to the salary multiples of what the business would want to cover you for. If God forbid you are. If something happened to you while you were a member of staff. So the funds that get paid out, you would appoint, your partner or whoever it is that you wanted the money to go to. That's how it would work.
So for the avoidance of doubt, death in service, then obviously it would pay out a multiple of your salary.
Yeah.
And I think what really struck me was that if you're the main breadwinner in a family, let's say you've got a young family and maybe your wife or your husband doesn't work, and then something happened to you, who's going to cover that salary?
Yeah, exactly.
And when I thought about that, I thought, wow, I've got this house and I've got this mortgage, got these bills.
Yeah.
And I'm not here.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people are in that situation that you're in. I've got, stories of people that I know who have passed away when they were very young.
Yeah.
And the business that they worked for had death in service. which was then allowed them to continue the mortgage payments or pay the mortgage off. And if they've got young kids, it can leave them in a very sticky situation where they might have to sell the family home and things like that.
Yeah.
If they haven't got something in place personally, which, like I say, a lot of people don't have anything in place.
I think the term is getting your house in order, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I need to do that. So I'm on the down low until I get sorted out. So we've touched upon EEPs, we've touched upon death in service, and Mark says he remembers someone saying that they camped out at work because they thought death in service meant you had to die at work.
No.
So we touched upon death in service, we touched upon EAPs. What else is there?
We also, those death in service, any kind of that death in service falls under the group protection banner.
Right.
So you could even have things like you can take out a group critical illness policy. So if somebody got a critical illness, it would pay out a lump sum, and you can take out group income protection as well. So if you've got a member of staff that had to go off on the sick for quite a long period of time, this policy would pay out like a monthly amount, and then the employer can use it to pay their wage instead of potentially them going off onto sick pay, which is, if they're on a decent salary, might not be worth. Might not go anywhere towards the monthly bills and things like that.
Yeah.
So as well as them, we've got things like cash plans. So cash plans cover things, mainly dental and optical cover, bits of therapies cover and things like that. So how they work is if you were to go and get your eyes tested, you would get a receipt, and each year you would have a limit on optical that you could use. You would get your receipt, take a picture of it, send it off, and then you get some 25 quid, put it back in your bank for your eyes test. If you needed glasses or contact lenses, you can get money towards, claim back your money for those as well. Same on dental. Tentacle. That's a good word.
Tentacles. So thinking of tentacles, I said, by the way, tentacles, not. So thinking about that, then is that a group thing then? So the company decides to put this group thing in, and all the employees, should they go to the opticians or dentists, they put the receipt in, do they get a full 100% claim back?
So you get up to your limit per year. So
personal limit or company limit?
No, it goes into the employee's bank account. So it's a benefit where the member of staff feels a bit of cash. They like a bit of, everybody likes a bit of cash. When you go to your dentist, or your bill there could be a little bit more. You might have a limit of up to, say, £200 a year. So if you go to your dentist and you get whacked with a £200 bill, you can claim that back within
so just for like viewers, because I was a bit confused about this, and when I heard about it, I was like, wow, this sounds quite good as a benefit. If you had 10 staff and they all claimed 200 quid, quick maths, £2,000, right?
Yeah.
Is that what's going to cost me as an employer, £2,000 to put this in place?
No, there's it's a monthly premium for per member of staff.
Right.
And that usually starts off at about £1 a week.
No way. Is it?
Yeah. So if everybody uses them,
right,
then you really do. If everybody in the company uses them, then you will obviously feel that benefit.
Right.
The reason that they're so cheap is that businesses put them in place, and I think they don't really tell the staff to use them properly.
Right.
So our job as a broker, if you like, is to say, look, you've got this in place. These are the benefits. Make sure that your staff use them. And that's the same with anything, like with private healthcare as well. Usually what you find is that either a director or an HR person will be given the task to look for private healthcare for a business. So our clients come to us because we do the job for them. So we'll go to the market, find out what the premiums are, and then we'll explain the cover, not just to the person that's dealing with the policy within the business, but if they wanted us to, we'll go out and do presentations and things like that, so people really understand what they've got in place and use it properly. So
that's really interesting. So when I met you, I straight away got your values and integrity. So straight away you're dead transparent, like heart on your sleeve. This is how it is. Dare I say this? Your profession, right? And I'm sales, right? And you say to someone you're in sales, they think of like a car salesman, and then you got all the connotations with that and like the hard sell and that. Is your field? Do people look at you with a little bit of like? Sorry.
No, I don't think that. I think
is there a bit of mistrust there? Like I don't know. This is the reason I got you on today, because I didn't know all this stuff, and in my mind I'm thinking it's going to cost us too much. I don't trust the person.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to push us down a particular package that I don't want to get. But what you're saying from what we've met is you're a broker, so you can look at all the different packages out there, get the best one for the client. But then also, if the client has a package with somebody else, you can review it for them.
Yeah.
And if they want to stay, they want to stay. And if they don't, they don't.
Yeah.
So for me, that was brilliant what you said that, because in my mind, I've got these like professions where I'm a little bit like guarded.
Yeah, I think as soon as you think, within our industry, there is people out there who will do whatever they can to try and win one of my clients off me.
Right.
But what they'll do is they'll say that they've got, everything's exactly the same. And I'll say, well, let's have a look at it. Because if it's a completely different price, there will be a reason for that. And we get a lot of clients back because they've been told something of a different salesperson, thinking that they've got the service and the products that they need and that it was the same as what they had, but it's not. So if somebody's already got these things in place, we can review it. And a lot of the time we can point out things that they might not even know that they've had.
What do you mean by looking through the
policy that they've got? Yeah, because there's so many. EAPs are fairly straightforward, the helplines and things like that. But private healthcare, there's lots of different options that you can take in the way of levels of cover and excesses, hospital lists and all that. So we can have a look over it and say to the client, look, we might point something out. For example, we've done this a lot where we've said, look, do you realize that you haven't got full cancer cover on there, which is huge. A lot of people take private healthcare out just for that reason. Yeah.
Right.
If we can point something out to say, look, you do realize, oh, well, no, we didn't. We got told something completely different. We can look at an overview of what people have got, and
that's really interesting there. So you touched upon a particular disease there, and you know how you mentioned before that when personally you take it out and you've got to fill all these forms in. Yeah. If you take a group one out, do they dig as deep as sometimes they say like, have you had heart conditions in the family and stuff like that?
No,
and then your premium, I would imagine, will go up because of that.
No,
if it's a group thing and you don't dig that deep, then
they don't go as far. It's very on a group private healthcare scheme, for example. There's an underwriting way of setting these things up, and it's very, very straightforward. I don't know if you want us to get into the nitty gritty of that.
I think I've just what I've said. If that's kind of correct, if I read that correct.
They don't go into as much detail as like what your parents have had wrong with them and your family history. They don't go into all of that on private healthcare schemes.
So you touched upon private healthcare there, and we know a few of the big ones out there.
Yeah,
talk a little bit about that. So how would I utilize that? Because I think, hospital waiting times are obviously quite a lot. You hear a lot about that. I mean, even now during this pandemic, they've stopped a lot of treatments, haven't they? And I guess there's a lot of non-urgent treatments.
It's pretty much come to a standstill on the NHS.
Right.
So the advantage of if you've got private healthcare or you're thinking about private healthcare, the bottom line is that it's going to get you in, seen, treated, back to work quicker than it would be if you had to wait around on the NHS. The NHS waiting lists at the minute are the worst that they've been in the history of the NHS. So if you're running a business and you want to have your staff back to work as quick as you can, instead of having them off long-term sick and things like that, where it might be, I don't know, a back condition where they can't come into work if they're a factory worker. So you're going to get people back into work.
I hadn't even thought about that there. So I hadn't thought about that. So the quicker you get them in, the quicker they get back to work, and the quicker they get back to full steam. And so actually, from an employee's point of view, they're more productive, and you're getting the best out of your employees. From an employee point of view, you're getting seen quicker. The pain or whatever ailment it is getting sorted as well. Yeah. So it's win-win. So and I'm going to put you on the spot and go, how much is it? Again, in my mind, I'm thinking putting a private healthcare scheme in is going to be a big hit.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
I think you're right. People think, private healthcare, that's going to cost us an absolute fortune. And if you take out a personal policy, it might cost you a little bit more. But if the business takes it out, it's the economy of scale. The more people that you've got onto a policy, the cheaper that it becomes for everybody. And I think people do get a surprise when they realize actually we can cover people for a lot less than what they thought and give them a really, really good product.
And I guess there's different levels of that, is there? So
there is, and I know I've discussed this with you before, trying to keep it simple and explaining it like car insurance.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, so there is different levels of cover that you can get with private healthcare, because these are all menu driven. But what we try and do is kind of keep it as simple as we can for customers to understand what they've got without overcomplicating it, because you can overcomplicate things. So we try and explain things in simple terms. It works, basically. It works. So
this must be good for you, because I think in Vogue a few years ago, remember we had like unlimited holidays were a thing. People would have like a job description say on the bottom, unlimited holidays. Are you seeing more employers now looking for stuff like this as an employee added benefit?
Without a doubt. I mean, we've even got current customers with us who might only have one policy. They might only have a private healthcare policy with us, but they're looking at what other benefits can they provide to their staff. And I think in the current climate as well, it's really focused the mind on that, to say how are our staff really feeling working from home, and what can we do to help them if they take ill or worse, basically. So.
Yeah, I mean, Martin's just kind of summarised that nicely there. It's a great incentive to retain staff or attract new, and it could be seen as an investment rather than a cost.
Yeah,
and I think we touched upon that there in terms of that investment, because you're getting someone back to work quicker.
Yeah, I mean, with these things as well, is the business has got to pay for the policies.
Yeah,
so it can go down as a business expense as well.
Right. So what else is there then? So this is all about adding value and giving it an educated mind, because you blew my mind, and I was so glad you told me about this. Yeah. So all our viewers, I really want them to try to get some real value out of this. So we've talked about EAPs, we've talked about private healthcare, we've talked about death and service. Is there anything else? One
thing that I'd like to go back with the private healthcare, if we can. There's lots of providers of private healthcare on the market, but there's probably 4 main ones that everybody would have heard of. So that's Bupa, the big one that everybody. Some people think that only Bupa do private healthcare still. That's just the reputation that they've got. Oh yeah, I've got Bupa.
Right. Okay.
They think that it's just Bupa that do private healthcare.
Oh right. Right, okay.
But so there's.
Is that all Bupa do though?
Bupa do health screenings where you can go along to a hospital and get a health screening, and they do dental policies, and they do cash plans as well.
Right. So yeah, private healthcare, you think in your mind, Bupa, don't you?
Yeah.
Which is great marketing for them, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you've got Bupa, you've got AXA, you've got Aviva, and you've got Vitality. They're the 4 big kind of providers of private healthcare.
If you want to say them again, we might put this on social. We'll make it like 10 quid each off them.
Right. So we've got Bupa.
So yeah, you've got the big
you've got
4.
The big 4. We do use some other providers, smaller providers as well, that we go to the market to, if you like, for prices as well.
Before you jump in, if I want, these big 4, have they got places that are close? So for instance, I wanted to travel within 10 miles to see private.
Yeah.
Would you say, well, actually, you want to go with this one, not that one, because the nearest one for that one's 20 miles?
They all pretty much use the same hospital lists.
Ah, right. Okay. So it's not a Bupa hospital.
Because the Bupa used to be it's the Spire Hospital in Washington. That used to be a Bupa hospital. Even if you're with a different provider, you can still use that.
See.
Then you've got a private hospital in Jesmond and access to NHS wards as well. I'm
trying to read Matt's question there. Do you do what Bupa do? Is that on their marketing?
Do you do what Bupa do? We do what Bupa do.
Thanks, Matt.
But we use Bupa as well as all of the providers of private healthcare. So we go out and broker the market basically for private healthcare. So we're not tied just to Bupa.
Why does it fluctuate then? Why would you? So Matt there is a Bupa fan, right?
Yeah.
I might say I'm a Vitality, did you say?
Yeah.
That's good memory. Why would one be cheaper than the other? Is it because Matt's super fit and I'm not?
It depends on a lot of things. Things like, the age profile of the business, claims histories and all that kind of things going with. That's why every year, if you were a client of mine, every year we'll make sure that we go out to the market to test it, basically to see, well, you're with Bupa, your premium's 100 quid a month.
Yeah.
We'll see what everybody else comes back at. They might come down, the others might be, 70 or 80. So we use that to look at getting discounts and things like that.
That car insurance analogy you gave before?
Yeah.
Whenever, I hope there's no car insurers watching this because I'm going to generalize a bit, but you know, when your car insurance is due, and let's just say it was 500 quid last year, they send you the renewal and it's 535 or something, and you would imagine that it would go down if you were like younger and you'd got more no claims built up and that sort of thing. And then you reach out to them and they say, oh yeah, okay, we can do it for 4 something.
Yeah.
Or you go to another insurer and they say, oh, we can do it for 450. And you're like, why is there no loyalty? I've been with you for 4 years and you can't do it cheaper, and I've got to move to someone new. When you're renewing, when you're revisiting people's policies, is that a thing?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how the scheme's performed over the last year. So you might have a hefty increase if an insurer's paid out 20 grand on claims, you know, they are going to increase it. But I think that's what we're there for. We're there to go to the market. You know, if it's a decent performance scheme, you might have only had like a 10% increase. And a lot of the providers appreciate customer loyalty. So,
do they?
Yeah,
good.
There's quite a few of them where we've been able to go out to the market, go back to the holding provider that you're with, and actually bring premiums under what they were the year before. Bearing in mind that, you know, as people get older, with private healthcare, the chances are that more things are going to start. Right. You know, ailments are going to happen. So as a scheme gets another year older, you will see prices go up slightly.
Right. Okay.
But we're there to try and keep them at a good level for you. So
yeah. And what does that look like for you? Because I think what you said before is that you don't charge people to look at their current policy.
No,
so, you know, if I'd said to you, do us a favor, look through my stuff, you look through it free of charge, that must be a risk to you, because then I might not go with you.
Yeah, well, it is. Yeah. I mean, we don't win every client or potential new client that we go out and see.
Yeah.
But I would like to think that, you know, we can give them an insight to the policy that they might not know about. So they've learned something new. And, oh, well, why didn't the guy that I'm with now know that?
Right. Okay.
You know, so it is a risk, and we don't win every bit of business. But, you know, the chances are, when we get involved, do a full market review, especially if somebody's direct with a booper, the majority of the time we will be able to get them a better price without affecting the cover. That's really important as well.
Yeah. So I think what we're talking about there is customer service, really. And you're playing the long game. I mean, you've been in this game 15 years, and obviously integrity, like in any business really, and, you know, integrity goes a long way, and transparency and having good values. So I guess referrals good for you then, in terms of word of mouth? People say like, oh, use this guy, he was good.
Yeah, and over the last 12 months, we've got quite a few referrals from existing clients to say, look, you know, this is who we use. Yeah. And we do get quite a few bits of new business from that.
Good stuff. Martin's saying there that someone in his street, let's have a look, a wagon went into his car and the whole street's premium went up based on his postcode. I don't know. We're not car insurance experts.
No, car insurance is a totally different world than what I know.
So we touched upon a few things there: EAP, death and service, private healthcare.
Yeah, cash plans.
What was that again?
Where you can claim money back and the employee gets the cash back for dental, optical
stuff.
You can use it. Denticles.
We just encapsulate them both. Yeah.
And things like physiotherapy and things like that, you can claim back. Cash. We've got a cash plan in place, so sometimes I get a dodgy back off running so much. I've been for a couple of sports massages, so I'll get the receipt off that, make sure that they've got the right qualifications that the provider will accept,
right,
and then just get the 35, 40 quid or whatever it is back from that.
Paul raises a very good question, and thanks, Paul. He talks about key man insurance there.
Yeah, that's something that
I don't think we've touched upon that, have we? Go on, go for it.
So key man cover is an insurance policy that pays out if a key person within a business is basically off either long-term sick, or the worst case scenario is taken out of the business completely. The money is paid into the business to then either keep the business going or until that person comes back from being off sick, or you can use the money to employ somebody else to fill their role as a short or even a long term thing.
So I've had experience of this in another business that I was in, because somebody had a lot of knowledge. They were there for 30 years and they built the product. Now, that was always a risk, because if that person had left, or as you say, worst case, who's got that knowledge, you know what I mean? And I think a lot of times in business, isn't it, you look at kind of like disaster recovery plans and that sort of stuff. But actually, when you think about it, what if that person left? What would the impact of the business be? So does key man insurance take into account someone that leaves? Like like, you know, if I was a key man and I decided to move on to another business,
No, it wouldn't.
it's got to have some sort of,
Yeah, you've got to still be either an employee
it's like
or
an
a
insurance.
direct. Yeah.
It's got something
While
sort
you're
of-
there.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, while you're there. Right. Okay. So would that be, you would pay me, can we just throw some figures around? You would pay me 5K a month and then I'll be employ someone for 5K, or is it a lumper?
It can be, I think, with key man cover, it can be either. So
Can be both.
so it's up to the business what they do with those funds then, whether or not you just think, right, we're going to keep it in the bank to make sure that everything's all right, or whether you use it to take on somebody on a temporary contract.
I suppose you'd also have to train somebody up, wouldn't you? So, you know, if you bring somebody in, this guy, 30 years, he leaves, you bring somebody else, she's only had a couple of years experience in that particular field.
Yeah.
She's
There's going to be a crossover of them having to get trained on.
Yeah. And would it cover that kind of stuff? Or you might use that.
You could use that. You could
you?
use that.
It's up to the business.
That. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Paul's asking a question. I haven't read it yet, so I'm going to throw it up. Can you add key man insurance from the get-go on a startup? Interesting, or does it only make sense if the business is revenue generating? That's a really good question. So you've just started a tech startup, for argument's sake. You've got a guy who's a whiz on software.
Yeah, I'm
really key man.
Yeah, you'd be able to set up with new businesses. Sometimes they don't want to jump kind of straight in and start. You know, they're looking at their expenditure
Operating
and things
costs.
like So you could do it, but we usually find that it's more established businesses that look at these kind of things.
It's interesting what Paul says there, because I would imagine if that startup business had been funded by an investor, the investor might say, look, I'm going to give you this much and I want you to take out a policy as well
in
on
case
each other.
anything happens.
And that's a really good question, actually. Before Paul threw death and key man insurance in, where are we going to go? We had EAP, death and service, cash plans.
Yeah, I think things like even standalone kind of dental policies. So that just cover dental cover. We'll have a couple of them, not as many as the other policies that we do. So a business again can provide dental cover but just for dental treatments, where you would claim back money for treatment that you've had.
So I'm just looking at the time there. 47 minutes. Yeah,
wow.
I told you this will fly, didn't I?
Yeah, it's gone well.
Before we go, can I just ask you about case studies? So Paul raised a really good question. So we've got a startup business. We've got a business 4 or 5 years old. We've got a business 10 or 15 years old. What should they do? Is this a question that you can answer, or is it really...
What should they do in the way of trying to protect their...
What could they put in place that's not going to really hit them from an operating cost point of view? Or the older business might have a bit in the bank and be able to do that. Is there like a bronze, silver, gold? Okay, startup businesses do this. 5 years old businesses do that.
I wouldn't say there's a time frame on it. I think a business has got to sit back and think, how key is it that we've got our staff back fit, well, healthy?
Yeah.
And and think about that. Have they got a budget that they want to put aside for spending on those kind of things? Because all these policies do cost money, but with, like I've said at the start, these policies, you might kind of get a double hit with them. So you might have the death in service, and you'll be able to provide all of your staff the employees assistance program as well. So you're kind of getting two policies for one. And it's the same as with the private healthcare. Actually, I don't think we'll be as quick as I can.
That's fine. I've got all day. It's Friday,
With private healthcare policies, a lot of the providers have realised how difficult it is in the last year or couple of years to actually get to speak to their own GP. It used to be a postcode lottery. Mm-hmm. Now a lot of it's got to do with COVID. You ring your GP and you just can't get an appointment. Yeah, it's really, really difficult.
Even postcode lottery in terms of vaccinations.
Yeah, it is now. Yeah. So a lot of the providers have realised that people are tearing their hair out trying to speak to a doctor to find out what's going on. So they've now started to provide private GP facilities as part of these plans. Mm-hmm. So my own scheme is with one of the big four. I had an issue last year, problem with my stomach, wasn't really getting anywhere with my GP. I went on an app, made an appointment that day with a GP, sat in the car park out there, had a telephone consultation, right? Yeah, this is what it sounds like. And then I was in a private hospital 2 days later, seeing a specialist and getting scans and stuff like that.
Wow.
So you can speak to a GP and effectively get transferred over directly instead of the process of usually having to go and see your own GP and then get a referral from them, because that first bit at the minute is just taking far too long.
Yeah.
So people have private healthcare will have access to private GP consultations now as part of the package, which is it's brilliant at the that's really good selling point.
That's actually really good for the NHS, is it? I'm sure it takes the heat off the NHS.
Yeah, off the GP. It's going to take pressure off the GPs.
Practice,
the initial,
What do you call it? What's that service called?
Each provider has different names.
Right.
For it. So there's like doctor at hand, one of them's called,
right.
with access. So you've got a doctor.
Can you video them? Like,
yeah.
Like a Zoomy kind of thing. Can you?
Yeah.
Right,
yeah,
okay.
and you can use it abroad if you're abroad on business. You can send out prescriptions. We can go and collect prescriptions abroad here as well. So there's loads that's going on in the background. It's not just a policy where, I've got private healthcare and it sticks in a drawer until you become ill.
Yeah.
There's things that people can be
using.
They've got mindful apps at the minute as well. So, going back to mental health, people can go on an app and it'll ask you certain questions and, it'll judge on or give you help and advice, tips on how to improve your mental health. And
sometimes when you got these black boxes with these car analogies in the car where you got a younger driver and it'll tell them that I'm thinking about my nephew at the time, not driving fast and all that kind of stuff. With those sort of things, if you're using apps and can you tell it like, I'm like running every day, or would it reduce your policies or impact it anyway?
Some of the providers have like reward schemes. So if you can, like, I use a Garmin running watch that links up to my healthcare to see how many steps I'm doing each day, and you get different discounts and rewards for that. Most people on there might know who the provider is that I'm talking about.
Martin's just asked there, can you add your whole family to the private GP option?
Yes, you can.
Right. So what would you say? So
if you had a policy where you just had Martin on as a member just by himself without the family, his whole family on there, he could still use the private GP to get advice for his family, but he couldn't. It then wouldn't kick in to be able to use his private healthcare, but he can get advice from them.
All right, okay. So
he could have, if he had a private healthcare policy with all of his family on, then they would have the whole benefits.
But if not, Martin could ring up and say,
look, my son's got this, that, and the other. Yeah.
Oh, right. Brilliant stuff. Oh, that's good. Is there anything I haven't asked you?
No, I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so. I know there's a lot of information to take in. I think it's just getting the message across that we're available for these kind of policies. You might not have known that you've got somebody who can give you free advice basically on these things. And if you have got these policies in place, then I'm happy to have a look at them, point out things that you might not know that you've got cover for, that you can use, that people can be using now. Because it's since Christmas, we're getting lots of calls from companies saying, look, we don't know how our staff really are. And what can they use to help them? That's
a really, really good point you raise. And I know of companies who take the temperature of the staff, not literally, but every quarter they might do like a staff survey, and it's literally how you're feeling and that sort of stuff. I think that's so important from a cultural point of view. That would probably dovetail nicely into that. If you had that feedback from the staff, that they might identify as a whole that there is a kind of mental well-being sort of issue, then right, okay, we need to do something about it. Yeah. This is why I wanted you to come here, because it's an education point of view. If my staff had said we've got a mental health being issue, I might have thought about something totally different. I might have thought, well, right, let's have a fun Friday, or let's have a half day here, or let's have flexible working hours or something. And this is why I wanted you to do this, because I wasn't aware of any of this stuff before I met you. So that was why I wanted to do it.
No, that's good. Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, thank you for your time, Adam. That's been really good. I really appreciate it. I hope that was worthwhile. I hope you took something from that. And if you're watching later on catch up, because a lot of people watch this catch up, because Friday 10 o'clock might not be available for you. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you've took something from this, please share it to your network. You can always learn something, I believe, from any kind of walk of life. So even if we've been going 55 minutes, if you've took 2 minutes or you've took a couple of little bits of gold from this, fantastic. Our job is done. So thank you so much. Last one there, what Mark just said, you can gauge how your staff are doing by a well-run EAP. Is that right? You can gauge how your staff's doing by a well-run employee. So is he saying there that how many people access it? So that's a really good point. Can you get statistics?
You can, and same on the cash plans as well. They can tell you like how many people that won't tell you who, but it'll give you a picture of how
well utilized
policies are being used.
That's a really good point, actually. And obviously, it won't tell you who, and it won't tell you what the person rang about, kind of thing. But at least you can say, oh look, 50 hours last month, this was utilized.
Yeah,
great. That's what we want to see, isn't it? That's really what we want to see, because what we want to do is prevent any issues. This is what it's all about. It's taking the vitamin, isn't it?
It's preventative. Trying to prevent things before they get too serious.
Yeah, good stuff. Thanks so much for your comments. I'm really glad you've took something from this. As I say, if you have, please share it. Drop us a little like. That's always good for the algorithm. Let's try and hack the algorithms. And really appreciate your lugs and your ears. We'll be pushing this out as a podcast very quickly. Our Misha is working from home today. She's going to jump straight on this. She's going to strip the audio out and push it. Only if you get one of those optical plans in place, because she wants new glasses.
Right. Yeah.
So thanks everyone for watching, and we'll be in touch with the next live broadcast. Stay safe. Keep an eye on everyone. I'm Ian Farah. This is the Industry Angel, and thanks for listening.